This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com in review. What I'm looking at today is 2021's VHS 94, and this is the fourth movie in the VHS series, which is interesting because not too many anthology series based on movies have been as long-lasting as VHS. Though I'm not 100% sure VHS 94 was released in theaters. I think it might have been a direct-to-Shudder release. In any case, if you include VHS 94, there are 4 VHS movies, 3 if not. And what I've liked about it is that it's structured in a manner that you have an opening story which encompasses the other 3 or 4 stories. So it acts as an envelope, and you go deeper into what's happening based upon what's going on in the stories. So it's kind of a neat structure, and I've always enjoyed it. Though in the case of VHS 94, they kind of abandoned that. There is a structure, there is an envelope, but nothing quite fits in it. It's just a bunch of stories, as far as I can tell, with no real connective thread running through them, which is a pity. Another pity is that Simon Barrett, who's written things like The Guest, and also worked on past versions of VHS, directed a story called The Empty Wake. And it's a great title. Unfortunately, it's not a very good story, in the sense that it revolves around a woman who is assigned to film a wake. Only one person comes, though after that person leaves, very weird things start to happen to her. Though the problem with The Empty Wake is that there is nothing to the story. It's got great practical effects, but nothing really happens. Well, that's not fair. Something does happen, but it has no consequences in a sense that it's not part of any larger thing, as far as I can see. And yes, I did like Blair Witch, by the way. I enjoyed it quite a bit. The next story is less of a story, per se, than a commercial for a product called the Veggie Masher. And it is hilarious. It's great. And it's very much a commercial in the vein of RoboCop. Not quite as violent, well, at least to people. It makes a mess of vegetables, though. And it's really cool. And it's just way too short. That was directed by Steven Kostanski, and it was really good, though, as I said, quite short. Chloe Okuno directed a story called Storm Drain, and as I mentioned earlier, the whole disconnectedness between these stories kind of irritates me. But that being said, it's pretty interesting. It has a very strange-looking practical monster, and revolves around this reporter and her cameraman who are investigating something called the Rat Man. It's pretty interesting, as I said, and it's not bad. It's not the strongest story by any stretch, though it's pretty decent. The strongest story would probably be Ryan Crowell's Terror, and it is a really fun story about a bunch of white nationalist types who find the ultimate weapon. It's clever, a little confusing on the opening though, as in the nature of this weapon. I wasn't quite sure at first, but once you understand what they're dealing with, it actually is a lot of fun. It is gory, it is just, and when I say it's fun, by the way, I mean it in a very dark sense. There's no real jokes in any of these things, but Terror is just a great episode, and as I said, the strongest of VHS 94. Jennifer Reeder's story, called Holy Hell, is one that's hard for me to actually remember. I can't really say if it was good or bad, because it literally did not stick in my head. And part of that has to do with the way VHS 94, as well as the others, are structured. There's no real clear demarcation between episodes. They just kind of go right into it. And unless an episode is really distinctive in some way, shape, or form for the good, or maybe not so good, it's kind of hard to to recall them. And this is the case for me with Jennifer Reeder's story. I just don't, off the top of my head, remember what it was, which is not a great sign. Timo Tjahjanto has worked on past VHS movies. Or I should say a past VHS movie. And he has this frenetic, kinetic, extremely gory style. Though a lot of it's practical, he uses CGI as well. And in this particular episode titled The Subject, he uses a lot of CGI muzzle fire, which always looks like CGI muzzle fire. In other words, it looks really cheap. And that's a pity because it's a clever episode revolving around this mad scientist type who kidnaps people to create neo-humans. It goes without saying that this does not work as planned. I enjoy VHS a lot, and this was probably not the strongest of the movies thus far, but it's still worth a watch. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com interview. If you agree, disagree, let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow.